While castrating pigs in the pen, I saw the barrage comments. Second sister is still defusing bombs. Hurry to the boulder by the ravine to save your brother, or his leg won't make it if you're any later. I didn't move a muscle, focused on the task. My blade rose and the testicles fell, just because I was reborn. In my previous life, I listened to the barrage comments, braved the storm, and begged my neighbor to lend me a car to take him to the hospital, thus saving my brother's leg. Yet my brother fell into depression because he couldn't save his white moonlight. To make him happy, I gave up my chance to attend university for him, focusing instead on raising pigs in the village to support my brother. When I was seriously ill and begged him to save me, he didn't give me a single penny. Xiaoyu was less than 10 meters away from me. How could you stand by and watch her die? A beast like you doesn't deserve to be my sister. Only then did I realize he wasn't depressed. He clearly hated me. Reborn once more. How could my brother compare to piggy treasure? Wiping the blood from my hands, I turned around and stirred another bucket of pig feed, calling the piglets to eat quickly. The chore of feeding pigs, which I once found utterly tiresome, now filled my heart with wild joy. I have been reborn. I'm still so young. My future holds endless possibilities. Why is Ermiai still feeding pigs here? If something happens to your brother, how heartbroken your mother would be. Strange. Why isn't Ermiai reacting? Could it be that she can't see the comments? Look, Ermiai moved. She must have seen them. Everyone, quickly send her the address. With a snap, I reached out and shut the front door. Outside, dark clouds loomed, and lightning flashed with thunder. I mustn't scare my pig. The barrage of comments fell silent instantly. The next second, excitement surged again. What's going on? Did she come out just to close the door? Isn't she going to save the third male lead? Without him, won't our female lead be missing a gloomy, obsessive backup option? Is there any way to make her see? I really don't want an actually crippled character. I calmly lowered my eyes, pretending to be blind. I only found out after death in my previous life. I was the cannon fodder younger sister of the cannon fodder third male lead in a doting novel. And that white moonlight of my brother's was actually the female lead of this book. She never died at all. Less than half a year after my death, my brother and she crossed paths on the street, reigniting their past romance. As for me, after a lifetime of hardship, I became mere marginalia in this book, a mere tool to highlight the male lead's obsession with the heroine, a minor casualty sacrificed to sustain him. Given a second chance at life, I don't care anymore, brother. I'd like to see how my supposedly lame brother can still manage to orbit around his beloved female lead. Why bother eating if your brother isn't home? I had just taken a bite when I heard Mom's impatient tone. Seeing that I didn't stop, she immediately started scolding. Second sister, how dare you eat before your brother even picks up his chopsticks? Have you never had a meal in 8 lifetimes? Another round of the same old nonsense. In my past life, I was too well trained and too thin-skinned. Afraid of being accused of being picky, always trying to please others. As soon as she said this, I immediately became submissive, too eager for maternal love, treating her words as gospel and obeying her every command. At the slightest sign of her displeasure, I would immediately try to please her. But when I gave up my chance to attend college, raised pigs, and worked odd jobs to earn money for my brother's education, only to fall seriously ill from exhaustion, I hoped my brother would take me to the hospital. What I got instead was my mother's relentless obstruction. Does your worthless life deserve to spend so much money? Was it easy for your brother to graduate? He hasn't even married yet. If people see such a heavy burden like you, who would want to be with him? I was dragged into terminal illness, barely holding on until my brother finally came. He deliberately gave me hope, yet intentionally provided me with wrong treatment. He made my emotions swing violently, nearly driving me to collapse. Looking down at me from above, he said he wanted me to taste the despair of his beloved. She must have seen you then, and surely longed for you to save her, but you left her in despair, so this is what you owe her. Thinking of this fills me with regret. I wish I could find him right now and kick him straight into the river. But letting him die like that would be far too merciful. My brother is arrogant and gloomy, extremely vain, and obsessed with reputation, wealth, and power. Then I'll make him watch helplessly as I destroy everything he holds dear. Bang. Stop eating, you gluttonous pig, you're finishing everything. My mother couldn't take it anymore and slammed the table. Second daughter, are you deaf? I told you to go find your brother and bring him back. Seeing that I wasn't responding, she even tried to snatch it from me. I put down my bowl and chopsticks, letting out a satisfied burp. Mom, it's pouring rain outside. If you want to go, go by yourself. I'm not going. My mother widened her eyes in disbelief and immediately started pointing at me while yelling insults. You little beast, your heart is too vicious. Let me tell you, if anything happens to my inkstone seal, I'll kill you. She wasn't educated, but when naming her brother, she spent 200 yuan to consult a feng shui master. When it came to me, it was just two simple words, Ermiai, second-born, a younger sister. I got up and went straight into my room, locking the windows securely. My mother was furious, pounding and kicking at the door. In the end, her heart ached for her son, and she rushed out holding an umbrella. Unfortunately, she couldn't see the barrage of comments. She didn't know under which boulder my brother was trapped. I picked up the exam paper and went through it carefully. I had forgotten many key points and barely managed to get half of them right. At that time, there were still 10 months left until the college entrance exam, and I had to make the most of my time. At 4 a.m., my mom came back. After causing a commotion outside, he finally quieted down and fell asleep. At 8 in the morning, someone from the village came knocking on the gate. When Mom saw her son with one leg crushed, she fainted from shock on the spot. By the time they thought to take him to the hospital, it was already 2 in the afternoon. By the time they borrowed a neighbor's car and rushed to the county hospital, my brother's leg couldn't be saved anymore. The barrage is furiously cursing. My Yandra male lead number 3. What did I do wrong? Just reading a side story. How did he actually end up crippled? This isn't just crippled. His legs are gone. Was the author kidnapped? No. I've always shipped this Yandra couple. What the hell is this? Run away. Damn second sister. Just die already. Mom called me immediately. Her tone was like a demon from hell, gnashing her teeth. Second daughter, it's all your fault. It's all because of you that your brother, woo-woo my son, my poor son. What kind of school are you going to? Get over here and take care of your brother. Hurry up and get here. Don't make me come drag you myself. I couldn't suppress the corner of my lips. Coming, of course I'm coming. My brother's leg is broken. How could I not go see him? As soon as the class bell rang, I cheerfully took a ride to the hospital. My brother was still unconscious, mumbling a name incoherently. Xiao Yu, don't be afraid, I'm here. My mother suppressed her anger and asked me in confusion, who is Xiao Yu? Oh, it's a classmate from our school. They came sketching yesterday and seemed to have gotten lost. My brother said he was going to rescue her. What? My mom immediately slapped me. Caught off guard, my cheek burned instantly. Then why didn't you tell me yesterday? Are you looking for trouble? Is this intentional? What about Xiaoyu? Why didn't Xiaoyu come to see him? I took a deep breath, forcefully suppressing the anger in my heart. Why didn't Fang Xiaoyu come to see him? It was because she used sketching as an excuse to relax, but in reality, she was just throwing a tantrum with her boyfriend. Claiming to be lost was merely a ploy to make him worry. Who would have thought my brother would insist on reading too much into it, mistaking a lost straw hat for her and insisting on going down to rescue her? After going through this ordeal, Gu Qiqian, who had originally planned to go abroad alone, decided to take Fang Xiaoyu with him. Meanwhile, my brother, having lost track of Fang Xiaoyu, became convinced that she had met a tragic end. This time, I must make sure everyone knows the truth. I immediately told my mother everything that had happened, including Fang Xiaoyu's parents and homeroom teachers' phone numbers. My mother lived up to expectations, despite the repeated silence from the homeroom teacher, Fang Xiaoyu's parents, and various classmates. She truly went to great lengths to stop Fang Xiaoyu, who was preparing to study abroad. Fang Xiaoyu's situation became known to the Gu family. The Gu family had always looked down upon Fang Xiaoyu's humble background. Thus, the two were forced to separate once again, seizing the opportunity. My mother straightforwardly demanded that Fang Xiaoyu marry my brother. Fang Xiaoyu's parents were utterly stunned upon hearing this demand. We never asked your son to save her. Besides, you ruined my daughter's chance to study abroad, and we haven't even settled that with you yet. My mother refused to back down. Didn't ask. Then why did you call my son? Your daughter ran off without a care, but my son lost a leg trying to save her. His life is ruined because of it. What future does your daughter even have, running off abroad with some man at such a young age? What kind of decent girl does that? I haven't even started on how impure your daughter is. The barrage chat is furious too. Holy shit, they're actually insulting our female lead like this. So despicable. It's all second sister's fault for refusing to save her brother. But still, from second sister's perspective, isn't she also suffering? Why should she be sacrificial material for her brother? I think so too. Besides, with a mother like that, no wonder male lead no. 3 has a twisted mentality. I stood aside, concentrating solely on reciting chemical formulas. After the college entrance exams in my previous life, I never glanced at a chemistry book again, having essentially returned all the learned knowledge to my teachers. Just as I was deeply engrossed in memorizing, my mother suddenly yanked me over. "I won't let you suffer losses either, so how about exchanging her? Your family doesn't have a son yet, let her help continue your family line." Not only were the Fong family stunned, but even I was taken aback, my face suddenly turning cold. She was still chattering away, trying to convince them that this was a good deal. "Our second daughter is 18 years old, young, fertile, and capable of handling all household chores. If you don't fancy her, just think of it as hiring a maid. Anyway, my son's leg can't just be left like this. Whether you want the second daughter or not is up to you, but she, Fong Xiaoyu, the one who caused my son's broken leg, must marry him, no matter what. You can't leave, you must stay and take care of my son." I originally thought she looked down on me simply because of her preference for sons over daughters. Suddenly, countless scenes of favoritism flashed through my mind. For example, my brother had fresh milk every single day. I've never even tasted what a bottle cap smells like. For example, if my brother sneezes, Mom would rush him to the hospital in a panic, yet when I fainted in the yard from menstrual cramps, Mom clearly saw but pretended not to, until I woke up and got up from the ground by myself. It's not because of favoritism, she didn't treat me as a human being. However, while my mother's remarks might humiliate me at home, outsiders wouldn't buy into them at all. Mr. and Mrs. Fong turned to leave with their daughter. My mother rushed over and desperately grabbed Fong Xiaoyu's clothes. Seeing their daughter almost exposed, Fong's parents panicked and desperately pulled at my mother. The group quickly descended into a chaotic brawl. My mother soon found herself at a disadvantage, screaming my name repeatedly. "Second sister, are you blind? Come help your mother. What are you standing there dumbfounded for? Oh no, your mom's about to be beaten to death by them." Amidst the chaos, my brother let out a cough. Frowning and holding his forehead, he coldly watched everything unfold before him. "Stop," just two short words, yet carrying an inexplicable sense of authority. It's still the same face, yet it has lost some of its usual youthful stubbornness and gained a sharper, more aggressive edge. Holy shit, isn't this the vibe of the male lead number 3 after he's achieved success and gone crazy? What's going on? Wasn't this supposed to happen more than a decade later? I feel like male lead number 3's gaze has changed. It's really different. I think so too. Did he regain his memories? Or is he seeing things from a god's perspective now? It feels kinda scary. I was shocked too. This gaze is definitely not Jiang Yanzhang's current one. Could it be? He's also been reborn. Jiang Yanzhang's sharp eyes swept around, landing on Fong Xiaoyu's reddened eyes, and his expression abruptly changed. "You're hurt. Who did this?" Fong Xiaoyu gave my mom a pitiful glance. Then she slightly lowered her head, revealing her pale, fragile neck. Tears began falling like pearls. "I really didn't mean to harm you. The signal was just bad in the mountains." That choked, indistinct voice seemed to strike right at Jiang Yanzhang's heart. He stared straight at me. Finally, his gaze fell upon my mother again. My mother panicked, her face pale as she tried to explain. "Yanzhang, don't listen to that little bitch. Mom only wants what's best for you. You don't know. If I hadn't stopped her in time, she would have already packed her bags and gone abroad with another man." "Enough. Shut up." Jiang Yanzhang's gaze was sharp. His demeanor was so unfamiliar that even Mom was startled, standing frozen in place with her hand over her chest. There was confusion in her eyes, but she didn't dare to speak casually. Yet when Jiang Yanzhang turned his gaze toward the Fong family, his tones suddenly became much gentler. "Uncle and aunt, on behalf of my mother, I apologize for today's farce. Thank you for coming to see me. I'm very happy." Mr. and Mrs. Fong exchanged glances, feeling both puzzled and relieved. I suddenly realized Jiang Yanzhang seemed unaware that beneath the blanket, he was left with only one leg. I couldn't help but curl the corners of my lips upward. I was already looking forward to seeing his reaction when he found out. Not just me, Mom had noticed it too. He immediately pressed a fruit knife against his throat, his voice hoarse and desperate. "No one is allowed to leave. If any of you dare to go, I'll die right here. Fong Xiaoyu, my son is awake. Hurry up and attend to him. Ask if he wants anything to eat." Seeing my mother start causing trouble again, Jiang Yanzhang also grew angry. "Stop messing around." With a gloomy expression, he propped himself up on the bed and threw off the blanket, only to tumble down with a thud the next second. The entire hospital room fell into dead silence. Jiang Yanzhang looked down in panic. staring fixedly at his empty right leg for a long time. He said hoarsely, "Where are my legs?" My mother couldn't hold back anymore, crying uncontrollably as she threw herself forward wailing, "My son, it's all because of this wretched girl. She tricked you into getting lost while she'd already run off in some stranger's car. If it weren't for her, you wouldn't have lost your leg." Fang Xiaoyu flushed red, instinctively wanting to defend herself, yet Jiang Yanzhang suddenly turned his gaze toward me. "Impossible, second sister, wasn't it you who brought me to the hospital? I clearly saved my leg. This can't be true." Indeed, he really was reborn. I suppressed my emotions and put on an innocent expression. "No. I thought you were going on a date with Sister Xiaoyu. I didn't dare disturb you." "You're lying." Jiang Yanzhang's gaze sharpened, his emotions growing more intense. "You clearly," I said with a calm expression. "What exactly?" The moment our eyes met, he immediately realized that it wasn't just me who had been reborn, but at this moment, he couldn't bring himself to say it. His face twisted with grief and anger as he pushed my mother aside and pointed at me, growling, "It's you. You're the one who made me disabled. You did it on purpose, you vile woman, you malicious, wicked woman." He had my mother see the Fang family out, then he pointed at me solemnly and said to my mother, "It was her who caused me to lose my leg. She clearly knew I was in danger but chose to leave me to die." Mom immediately turned around and started hitting me as she recalled that night. I found it ridiculous. Last time I saved him, he blamed me. I didn't save him in this lifetime, and he blames me for it. Mom came at me swinging wildly, but this time I wasn't going to take it. I shoved her away. "I'm tall and do endless manual labor every day, so I'm really strong." Mom fell when I pushed her and froze for a couple seconds, probably realizing the disparity in our strength. She plopped down on the floor wailing loudly, "Heaven strike down this ungrateful wretch beating her own mother. How bitter my fate is. After all my hard work raising this worthless girl, she actually wants to kill her own mother." Her voice was extraordinarily loud, half speaking, half singing. A nurse pushed the door open, revealing a corridor crowded with onlookers. The more people gathered, the harder my mother shouted, her wailing eyes flashing with a hint of triumph. The nurse scornfully scolded me, and passers-by cursed me, saying I'd die a miserable death. The last thread of sanity in my mind snapped. Like a madman, I grabbed the fruits and snacks on the counter and hurled them to the ground. I didn't keep anything. The milk, cookies, lunch boxes, bowls, chopsticks, or the thermos, I smashed them all. "Are you really my birth mother? Are you even fit to be called a mother? What kind of real mother would send her own daughter to be a slave for some married man? My brother broke his leg and it's my fault. He's 19 years old, not a 2-year-old child. He had to play the hero and rescue some damsel in distress, then fell off the mountain and got his leg crushed by a rock. How the hell is that any of my business? How did this become my fault? Ever since my dad died, every single penny that's put food and drink on this table came from me slaughtering pigs. You eat my food, drink what I provide, and still dare to raise a hand against me. What gives you the right?" Everyone's eyes immediately filled with pity when they looked at me, but I no longer cared and turned to leave without hesitation. My mother was still shouting behind me, "Don't go. Who's going to take care of your brother if you leave?" I sat in the garden for a while, and many people came over to comfort me. A cleaning lady, upon hearing what happened, clumsily yet earnestly encouraged me, "Don't cry, there's still a long road ahead. I've been through many hardships too, but I pulled through. You mustn't drop out of school. Study hard, go to college, and stay far away from them." That's exactly what I taught my daughter. "If you don't have money, I can give you some. Go study hard and don't worry about that mother and son anymore." I was deeply moved and quickly declined. Besides, how could I possibly ignore that mother and child? In my previous life, Jiang Yanzhang finally discovered that I was ill. I thought I was going to be saved, but instead, he brought me to the city only to settle me in a sanatorium. They tied up my hands and feet, calling it a measure to prevent me from scratching myself, lying in bed. Conscious yet unable to move, I was forced to endure irregular meals and to relieve myself in bed. Due to prolonged immobility, my entire body felt as if it were being gnawed by countless ants at every moment. How could I not repay this kindness? So I bought 2 steamed buns, ate them, and returned to the hospital room. Mom thought I had realized my mistake and put on airs for a while. She then started preaching again, saying how men are the backbone of a family and that my brother is my sky. I nodded and urged my mother to go home and rest. Only then was my mother satisfied and went home to make soup for her son. At that moment, only Jiang Yanzhang and I were left in the ward. His eyes were filled with unconcealed resentment. Second sister, I truly underestimated you. You've also been reborn, haven't you? Do you think just because my leg is broken, you can have a different life? I looked at him calmly and raised my hand to slap him. Did he really think I came here to take care of him? Jiang Yanzhang's eyes widened in shock, a palm print blooming on his pale cheek. You're asking for death. He lunged at me to strike, but accidentally tumbled again, knocking over the lunchbox and splattering leftover soup all over his face. He struggled to stand up, but having just undergone surgery, he simply lacked the strength. Finally thought of me at last. If you don't want to die, help me up right now. If you've been reborn, you wouldn't forget the power I wielded back then. With just one word from me, I could crush you. TSK, is this how you ask someone for help? I stepped over him, picked up the book, and sat on the accompanying bed by the balcony, reading intently. Jiang Yanzhang was a man with strong self-esteem. After realizing I did it on purpose, he tried to get up again, breaking into a sweat from sheer frustration, yet remained completely immobile. His eyes turned red with anger. I'm going to kill you, Jiang Ermiai, I'm going to kill you. It's really too noisy. I was very unhappy and went over to kick him. Watching him curl up in pain like a shrimp, I feel refreshed and clear-headed. Jiang Yanzhang, do you realize whose care you need right now? There's still a long road ahead. A broken leg can't be healed. Are you sure you want to oppose me? Jiang Yanzhang's expression was utterly priceless. Humiliation, anger, pain, yet it paled in comparison to the suffering of my past life. This is just the beginning. Jiang Yanzhang clearly had no intention of giving up either. The next afternoon, my mother arrived at the school in a frenzy, insisting on withdrawing me. I had good grades, so all the teachers and even the principal thought it was a shame for me to drop out. Everyone tried to persuade her, but she remained unmoved and instead questioned the teacher's intentions. You're not interested in my daughter, are you? At your age, behaving like a hooligan in school, I'm going to report you. The teacher was stunned by her unreasonable behavior. In the past, I would probably have cried helplessly with no other choice, but now, I simply call the police. When the officers arrived and tried to mediate, my mother knew full well this was a family matter and felt justified hitting me. After being stopped, she slapped the police officer twice without hesitation. After Mom came out of the detention center, she became much more subdued, but still tried to pressure me to drop out of school. I let out a cold laugh. What's so funny? Mom grew uneasy from my laughter. I slowly put down the kitchen knife in my hand. If you keep stopping me from studying, then none of us three in this family will live. This time, Mom truly backed down and never dared to bring it up again. Indeed, the tough fear the reckless, and the reckless fear those who don't value their lives. I continued studying during the day, taking care of Zhu and my brother in the evening. Life is peaceful and fulfilling, but I also know Jiang Yanzhang won't stay quiet for long. After experiencing my care multiple times, he started playing the emotional card with me. Let's shake hands and make up. After all, we're siblings. Blood is thicker than water. What could possibly be so irreconcilable? Let's partner up. At worst, we can count you in for a share of the equity. I laughed again. I never realized he could be so naive. Back when Jiang Yanzhang was in college, he formed an AI team. Before even graduating, they were already making a fortune from their patents. That was their first pot of gold, so this time, he wrote down these people's names and contact numbers for me to reach out to. This is indeed a valuable thing. I carefully put it away. Turn around and tell these people we couldn't find it. Jiang Yanzhang knew I was lying, but he didn't dare to confront me openly. He even comforted me instead, saying it was okay. Seeing his frustrated expression made me laugh. In the end, he managed to meet Xiaozun, a wealthy second-generation heir, thanks to Fang Xiaoyu. The long-dormant barrage comments suddenly sprang back to life. Wow, isn't that the second male lead? What's going on? The second male lead is meeting the third male lead so early. I remember the third male lead was initially the villain, scheming and coercing our female lead, driving the second male lead's family to ruin. Wait, what are they doing? Wow, the second male lead is so slick, taking the chance to get physically close to the female lead, and she can't even refuse. At the moment Xiaozun forcefully kissed Fang Xiaoyu, Jiang Hezhang's expression drastically changed. Xiaozun appeared to be drawn to his talent, but in reality, he was merely using him as a stepping stone to create opportunities for himself and Fang Xiaoyu. This unbearable humiliation was something Jiang Hezhang had no choice but to endure. He believed that as long as his work could see the light of day, he could once again become a business prodigy capable of summoning wind and rain. By then, he would be able to wash away his shame. His mother supported his career and secretly bought him an expensive computer. I pretended not to know. I continue to study diligently every day. I keep taking care of my brother and the pig. Time passed quickly. My grades are getting better and better. My ranking is rising higher and higher, getting closer to the goal I had in my previous life. The pig is growing stronger and stronger, and it's almost ready to be sold. At the same time, my mom bumped into Fang Xiaoyu and Xiao Zun hugging each other. During this period, the two occasionally came back home to discuss product details with Jiang Xiaozhang. My mom had always been very polite to them, and she thought Fang Xiaoyu must have feelings for my brother. She had already assumed the role of a mother-in-law, teaching Fang Xiaoyu a few little tricks to take care of my brother every time she visited. For example, what flavors does my brother like or dislike? And remind Fang Xiaoyu not to dress too flashy or get too close to that Xiao Zun. So when my mom witnessed this scene, she was furious, but this time, she got smarter. She knew that going to confront them might result in being beaten and thrown out, so she simply came up with a plan. She tied Fang Xiaoyu up. She intended to teach Fang Xiaoyu a proper lesson and then deliver her to her brother, forcing them into a marriage they couldn't escape. Meanwhile, Jiang Yanzhang had his own scheme brewing. After finally waiting for the product to launch, Xiao Zun never showed up again. Mingming saw the product going viral online. Jiang Yanzhang grew anxious and called, only to be met with Xiao Zun's scoff. "Oh, that product is indeed quite good. If that's the case, then what about our dividends?" "What do you mean ours? Watch your words. That's not ours. It's mine." "Xiao Zun, what are you implying? I created that all by myself. Are you trying to take it all? You created it. Where's your proof?" "Jiang Yanzhang, I'm warning you, watch your mouth, or I'll see you anytime. Who do you think you are? Let me tell you, if it weren't for Xiaoyu's sake, I wouldn't even bother setting foot in that dump of yours that looks like a toilet." "Xiao Zun," Jiang Yanzhang's eyes burned with fury, gripping the wheelchair handles in fury. He wished he could rush to Xiao Zun right then and there for a life-or-death showdown, but the other end had already hung up the phone. Xiao Zun's final taunt echoed in his mind. "Do you think Xiaoyu didn't know? She knew all along. She said that product would just go to waste in your hands. You should be thanking me. It's my capital that's making it flourish. Got it? Stop flattering yourself. You're nothing." Jiang Yanzhang had played his last card. In utter despair, he secretly ordered large quantities of lime and sulfur online. He thought he was being very discreet. I didn't expose him right away either. After all, I'm about to take the college entrance exam, and I don't want to stir up trouble at this critical moment. The college entrance exam is approaching. I'm fully prepared and confident. The day the college entrance exam results come out, Jiang Yanzhang took the initiative to propose hosting a celebration banquet for my college admission in the future. "You'll be the only college graduate in our family. How can we not celebrate this properly?" His smile was insincere. I smiled too and nodded in agreement. I want to see what he's up to. My grades are out, third in the city. At the celebration banquet, all my relatives and friends were thrilled, especially the elders from the village, who took turns toasting me. Everyone kept saying how promising I was and that they'd benefit from my success in the future. I responded with a smile, watching this scene. Jiang Yanzhang gritted his teeth and downed one drink after another. After who knows how many drinks, his cheeks flushed red and his gaze grew increasingly dark, until the moment I raised my glass to toast him, he couldn't hold back anymore. He smashed his glass outright. "You venomous witch, you're the reason my leg was crippled, and now you're going to college. How dare you go to college? You deserve to die." Uncle Lee next door was utterly shocked and hurriedly told him to shut up. "It's supposed to be a joyous occasion. Why are you cursing your sister? Your sister is a college student. Shouldn't you be basking in her glory too? Get away from me, don't touch me." Jiang Yanzhang roared furiously. "You'll die too. All of you will die, you judgmental bastards. In our past life, you relied on me to build your 3-story house, and now you dare look at me with such contempt. You heartless beasts, all of you deserve to die." Ha 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 ha. The crowd exchanged glances, all thinking he had gone mad. Some called him crazy, while others said to ignore him. "That cripple is just mentally twisted. Being disabled is pitiful enough. Forget it, everyone, eat your meal and don't bother with him." At that moment, Jiang Yanzhang took out a lighter. "Heh, go ahead and eat. I've planted explosives beneath your feet. You're all going to die." As he spoke, he lowered his head and lit the fuse at his feet. Everyone screamed in terror, scrambling to hide. Only I remained completely still. "Second sister, I refuse to accept this in this lifetime. In the next life, I will definitely kill you. I slowly took a sip of juice, sweet at first taste, with an endless aftertaste. Whoosh, a streak of light shot up from the ground, rising to the horizon, and with a loud bang, burst into colorful fireworks, under the overcast sky. The fireworks appeared even more dazzling compared to a clear day. Everyone froze, they looked up to admire the fireworks. Jiang Yanzhang gaped in shock, his hands gripping the edges of the wheelchair tightly. How is this possible? I raised my glass to him. Thank you for the fireworks, brother, they were truly beautiful. I had known all along that he intended to blow us up, so I replaced them with fireworks, and all his explosives were placed in his own room. Jiang Yanzhang was arrested and charged with endangering public safety, facing a minimum sentence of 3 years. My mother was so furious she wanted to hit me, hurling insults non-stop. I scratched my ear and reminded her, starting today, you'll have to support yourself. Confused, my mother returned home only to find all 13 pigs I had carefully raised gone, along with every last chicken and duck. After all, university tuition and living expenses add up to quite a hefty sum. She was so frantic she cried out to heaven and earth, wanting to call the police, just as she was about to leave. The police came to her door and took her away, citing illegal confinement of another person. It was me who had reported her to the police. Reportedly, she's also facing a minimum sentence of 3 years. I boarded the train and arrived at the university I had never visited in my previous life. The campus was lush with green trees and adorned with vibrant flowers. I couldn't help but feel my heart surge with excitement. From this moment on, I was about to embark on a new chapter of my life. But before that, I went to find Xiao Zun and presented him with the contract he had signed with Jiang Yanzhang back then. Xiao Zun kept drinking water frequently because beneath that contract lay the complete video evidence of him infringing on Jiang Yanzhang's patents. He had no choice but to pay me a hefty sum in breach of contract penalties, which served as hush money, and with that hush money, I managed to contact his former university classmates and co-founded a tech company. 3 years later, my mother and Jiang Yanzhang were released from prison. The world was still vastly different from before. Without me at home to labor tirelessly, my mother had to both run a street stall and take care of Jiang Yanzhang, living an extremely hard life. I never went back again. Still, I had people keep an eye on them at all times. If Jiang Yanzhang ever tried to make a comeback or had any other ideas, I'd have someone put him down. Within 2 years, Jiang Yanzhang couldn't hold on anymore. He attempted suicide but failed, and I sent him to a sanatorium. Thus began his new life, worse than death. It wasn't until much later that I realized, with a shock, that the barrage of comments had long since vanished. I sipped my coffee, gazing down at the city below. The future is now. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. Before his death, my husband wrote a will leaving all his property to his first love. He held my hand and said remorsefully, Song Jin, I've wronged you in this lifetime. If there's a next life, I'll make it up to you. Our son also chimed in. Mom, even though Dad left all the family assets to Aunt Sue, you've held on to the position of the rightful wife for so many years. That should be enough. Looking at these two men with similar features, I coldly withdrew my hand and calmly said to Qin Jiangyi, no need to wait for the next life. In this lifetime, I won't give you the chance to wrong me. In Qin Jiangyi's final moments, our son hurriedly brought Su Qian to his side. I looked at my son in disbelief. Your father is about to leave. Why aren't you hurrying over? What are you doing bringing an outsider here? Mom, I know Dad doesn't have much time left. That's why I called Auntie Sue over. She's definitely the person Dad wants to see most before he goes. Ignoring my shocked expression, my son pulled Su Qian into the hospital room as he spoke. At that moment, my head buzzed with confusion. I couldn't understand what my son meant by those words. Susie used to be my son's nanny when he was little. Later, when he grew older and no longer needed a nanny, I let her go. However, after being dismissed, Susie didn't leave. Instead, she rented an apartment near our home. She said she had developed deep affection for my son while taking care of him and had always treated him as her own. That's why she stayed nearby, offering help whenever she could. At the time, I only felt ashamed and ended up giving Susie a generous red envelope as compensation. But I never imagined she would become the person my husband most wanted to see before his passing. Just as I finally snapped back to reality and pushed open the hospital room door, I heard my husband, who had barely been able to speak moments earlier, suddenly grasp Susie's hand excitedly. Susie, my Susie, I was so afraid I wouldn't see you before I died. Susie was already in floods of tears by then. Brother Jiangyi, what will I do without you? Don't be afraid, Cici, even if I'm gone. Wen Chu will take care of you. Qin Jiangyi gently wiped away the tears from Su Qian's eyes with his fingers, his heart aching. The son immediately nodded and said, Auntie Su, don't worry, even if my dad is no longer here, I'll take good care of you. Hearing this, Su Qian threw herself into Qin Jiangyi's arms. I knew brother Jiangyi would be the best. Qin Jiangyi patted Su Qian's back gently and said, don't worry. I've made all the arrangements for you. I've already drawn up a will, leaving all the family property to you. Once I'm gone, you can inherit everything. With Wen Chu looking after you, I can rest easy. Just as the two were pouring their hearts out to each other, I couldn't hold back any longer and interrupted them directly. What do you mean by giving all the family's assets to her? Damn bastard, cheating is one thing, but how dare he set his sights on my money? Hearing my voice, Qin Jiangyi finally looked at me, a trace of guilt flashing in his eyes. Thinking back to before Su Qian arrived, how lifeless he lay on the bed, completely unresponsive to anything I said. I know I've wronged you in this lifetime, Song Jin, but there's just no helping it. Su Qian is the eternal white moonlight in my heart. With her there's simply no room for anyone else. Qin Jiangyi spoke with such deep emotion, yet all I could feel was absurdity. I don't know what kind of story they shared, but if his heart belonged only to this woman, why did he marry me and have children together? Mom, Dad and Aunt Sue were childhood sweethearts. If it weren't for Dad's career back then, they wouldn't have separated, and you wouldn't have been able to marry him. You've enjoyed the position of the beloved wife for so many years. Don't make Dad leave with unease. I couldn't be bothered to look at this son who always takes others' side. My gaze fixed solely on the man lying on the bed. Qin Jiangyi, nearly 70 years old, even at this moment showing signs of impending death, still exuded an elegant and handsome charm that felt like a gentle spring breeze. Yet for the first time, I felt nothing but disgust at the sight of him. Perhaps seeing the intense disgust in my eyes, Qin Jiangyi's lifeless gaze flickered with a hint of sorrow. Song Jin, come here. With one arm around Su Qian's waist, he extended his other hand toward me, beckoning me to approach. Though I was extremely reluctant to get close to him at that moment, driven by curiosity about what nonsense he might spout, I couldn't help but walk over. As soon as I drew near, Qin Jiangyi grabbed my hand and said, I know I've wronged you in this lifetime, but this is my only wish before I die. Please grant it to me. I frowned and remained silent. Even if you don't agree, I've already made my will. There's nothing you can change about it. I stared coldly at this dying man and Susie sitting beside him with a hint of smug smile on her face. How do you know I can't change it? I sneered. Song Jin, I've wronged you in this lifetime. It's my fault, and Sushi has nothing to do with it. If there's a next life, I'll make it up to you then. Please don't bully Sushi. Qin Jiangyi spoke nervously, but his voice was already faint and weak due to his extreme physical exhaustion. Seeing him on the verge of death, my initial sorrow faded, replaced by cold detachment as I withdrew my hand. No need to wait for the next life. In this one, I won't give you the chance to wrong me again. My words seemed to deliver the final blow to Qin Jiangyi. He reached out frantically to grasp my hand but failed each time. In desperation, he kept calling out, Song Jin, Song Jin, Song Jin. Just because there was no anger left, his voice grew fainter and fainter, until his outstretched hand fell onto the hospital bed, his head tilted to the side, and he fell completely still. Seeing this, my son immediately rushed over to check. Upon realizing Qin Jiangyi had already passed away, he turned to me furiously. Mom, what are you doing? Did you deliberately make Dad's passing uneasy? Looking at my son before me, in his 40s yet showing little trace of time on his face, he resembled his father greatly, blessed with handsome features. But now it seemed he hadn't just inherited his father's good looks, but also his father's heartless and ungrateful nature. How can we ensure his peaceful departure? By giving all the family assets to an outsider, I scoffed. Money, 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 that's all you care about. How can Auntie Sue be an outsider? She was Dad's most beloved woman and the aunt who took care of me since childhood. In my eyes, she's like a second mother to me. What's wrong with Dad leaving her the family money? When Chu, Auntie always knew, all these years of loving you weren't in vain. Su Qian covered her mouth, moved to tears upon hearing this. Yet I could only find it laughable that such words had actually come from my own son's mouth. This doesn't sound like something a man in his 40s would say. It's clear I must admit that my parenting has failed. Qin Wenchu, I must remind you, you still have a share in the family property. Are you really willing to give that up? The son stiffened his neck and retorted, why shouldn't I give it up? To let my father pass peacefully. I'm willing to give it all up. Susie's eyes lit up repeatedly upon hearing this, and she was so moved that she threw herself into her son's arms. Good child, your father entrusted me to you before he died, and he was absolutely right. Aunt Sue, don't worry, even though Dad is gone, I'm still here, the son said, patting Susie on the shoulder. Fine words, you say you'll give up, but dare you sign the property relinquishment agreement? I looked at the dead man on the bed and decided to step back and find a seat. It was at that very moment I witnessed something truly astonishing. Chin was about to, his soul actually floated up, and, I could see it, he floated to Su Shi and Chin Wenchu's side, deeply moved by their united appearance, and threw himself forward to embrace them. However, being in a soul state, he simply passed right through them. At that moment, he seemed to finally realize he was dead, existing as a soul, but he appeared to accept this reality quickly, immediately joining their united front and shouting at me, Song Jin, you petty woman, my son was right, all you care about is money, you'll never understand the pure love between Su Shi and me. I pretended not to see or hear anything and instead looked straight at my son, signaling with my eyes for him to answer the question just asked. Because I realized that in this room, it seemed only I could see Qin Jiangyi's spirit, the two people opposite couldn't see him at all. Otherwise, when Qin Jiangyi lunged at them earlier, those two wouldn't have remained completely unfazed. Catching my signal, Qin Wenchu hesitated briefly but then spoke up, why wouldn't I dare? My dad has already drafted his will, I support his decision. If we need to sign an agreement, then let's sign it. For Auntie Sue, I'm willing to do anything, son. Don't be foolish, you can't sign it. If you sign, you won't be able to help Aunt Sue fight for the property. Your mother is ruthless, she'll definitely compete with Aunt Sue. Hearing his son was willing to sign the property waiver agreement, Qin Jiangyi grew frantic, trying to warn him. Unfortunately, Qin Wenchu couldn't hear his voice at all, so I just curled my lips coldly. Oh really, I don't believe it. Unless you sign it right here in front of me. My son seemed taken aback by my demand. He froze on the spot. After a long pause, he finally replied awkwardly, the family assets all belong to Aunt Sue. I would never compete with her. There's no need for a written agreement. Susie was initially quite excited when she heard what I said, but upon hearing her son's words, she frowned almost imperceptibly. However, she hid her emotions well in front of the man and immediately said to her son, the property your father left behind was always meant to be yours, even if you asked for it. Auntie wouldn't fight you for it. There's really no need to sign any agreement. Her words sounded gracious, but they effectively put Qin Wenchu in a difficult position. She didn't say she trusted him not to compete with her. Instead, she emphasized that it was rightfully his all along. This made it inappropriate for Qin Wenchu not to sign the agreement. Qin Wenchu stared blankly at Su Qian, not getting angry because of it. Instead, he spoke understandingly, you're right, Aunt Sue lost her father. And even with me as her support, she still lacks a sense of security. Then I'll sign it to put Aunt Sue's mind at ease. Watching her son make up his mind, saying she didn't feel heartbroken would be a lie. The son who bossed me around was now being so considerate in front of Su Qian. Even though he saw through Susie's little scheme, he still chose to accommodate her. Qin Jiangyi was stunned upon hearing this. With a crestfallen expression, he seemed to be blaming himself. It's my fault for not being prepared. I forgot that Cece is a girl who lacks a sense of security. But if I sign this, Song Jin will never let go of the family assets. I couldn't help but shake my head upon hearing this. Damn, a little girl in her 60s is something I've never seen before. No matter how unwilling Qin Jiangyi was, spurred on by me and Susie, Qin Wenchu still fetched paper, pen, and inkpad, wrote a statement relinquishing the family assets, and pressed his fingerprint onto it. To ensure greater legal validity, I directly connected with the notary office and had the documents notarized there. After completing everything, I immediately got up and prepared to leave. Over there, Susie and Qin Wenchu were still hugging each other emotionally, crying their hearts out. Suddenly noticing my departure, Susie hurriedly stepped forward to stop me. Sister Song Jin, why are you leaving already? Should I stay here for dinner if I'm not leaving? Susie wasn't angered by my retort but instead spoke gently. Sister Song Jin, I know you're upset about losing the family fortune, but no matter what, Brother Jiang Yi was still your husband. How could you abandon his body and leave on your own? Indeed, just moments ago when they were arguing back and forth over the family fortune, neither of them seemed to remember that their beloved lover and respected father had just died. As for me, just a worthless man, why should I care when he died? The person he loved most was you, and his son is also here. Can't you even handle his remains properly? What do you need me to stay for? Seriously, you took my family's wealth, but you're not even willing to let Qin Jiang collect his body. Su Qian took several steps back after my sharp words. No, sister, I just thought, since he was your husband, you should be the one to handle his funeral arrangements. Hearing this, I scoffed. I refuse. Why should I arrange funeral matters for a wretched old man who betrayed me? With that, I stopped paying attention to her and continued walking out, but then my son wasn't happy. He blocked my path. Mom, how can you treat Auntie Sue like this? She's been generous enough to give Dad to you for decades, and now you're being so petty. Auntie Sue was just reminding you to handle Dad's funeral arrangements. Why are you acting like this? Aren't you hurting Auntie Sue's feelings, after all? She just lost the most important person in her life. I looked at my son as if he were an idiot. If it weren't for the genetic tests I've had during my annual checkups all these years, I'd seriously doubt if this idiot was actually my own flesh and blood. Didn't I leave her the most important person in her life? What more do you want? I rolled my eyes and kept walking out, but Qin Wenchu grabbed me to stop. Funeral arrangements cost money, Mom, even if you don't care about Dad. You at least need to pay up. Why should I pay for the funeral of the most important person in her life? I gave him a puzzled look. Upon hearing my words, Qin Jiangyi's soul drifted beside me, heartbroken, and said, Song Jin, even if I, Qin Jiangyi, have wronged you in this lifetime, haven't we lived in harmony for decades? Are you really unwilling to pay for my funeral now? Qin Wenchu also yelled at me. Mom, no matter what, he's still my dad. How can you just ignore him? This time I was truly furious to the point of laughter. You're the one calling him your dad. Why aren't you handling his funeral arrangements? You're 43, not 3. Can't you even manage your own father's death? The more I spoke, the more exasperated I became. Had I really failed so badly at raising my child all these years? A man in his 40s with no sense of responsibility whatsoever. Qin Wenchu was left speechless by my retort. Even Qin Jiangyi was shocked by my words and looked at his son, as if just realizing that this son should be the one to handle his affairs after his passing. Instead, Su Shi stepped forward to shield Qin Wenchu behind her. Sister, why are you picking on a child, no matter what? Wenchu is still your son. If he doesn't understand, we as elders should teach him, right? Then why don't you, as the elder, teach him? Why are you stopping me? I couldn't help but roll my eyes again. Sister, you know I don't have a job. If it weren't for Brother Jiangyi helping me all these years, my life would have been very hard. The money for handling the affairs, could you give it to me? This time I really didn't walk away anymore. I'd actually forgotten about it until she brought it up. Seems like Qin Jiangyi has spent quite a fortune on this woman over the years, pampering her like royalty. In the end, I'll make sure she coughs up every penny she owes me. What's the matter, Miss Su? You took the family assets Qin Jiangyi left you, yet you're unwilling to pay for his funeral arrangements. I sneered. Song Jin, don't slander my Cece. How could she possibly be unwilling to spend money on me? She's just, Qin Jiangyi, who was anxiously making excuses for his beloved white moonlight, struggled for a long time but couldn't come up with a reasonable explanation. If he weren't in a state of being a soul, his appearance would surely be even more ridiculous right now. Sister, the family assets are still with you now. I genuinely have no money. I need you to hand over the family assets to me so I can have the funds to arrange Brother Jiangyi's funeral, Su Shi said without batting an eye. That's right, Song Jin. Hurry up and give the family assets to Cece, otherwise, how will she have the money to arrange my funeral? Qin Jiangyi immediately seized the excuse and glared at me angrily. What a pity no one saw how ugly his expression was, planning to claim the inheritance right after his death. Susie, you've got some nerve. If you want the assets, bring the will and sue me in court. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her anymore and was truly ready to leave this time. Mom, what do you mean by that? That's my father's estate. How dare you seize Dad's inheritance? Qin Wenchu shouted at my retreating figure. Your father's estate, that's our marital property. God damn it, did he think he could just give away my money with a will after he died, over my dead body? After saying that, I left the hospital directly. As I walked out of the hospital gate, I suddenly noticed Qin Jiangyi following me out. He didn't seem to be doing it voluntarily, he just suddenly appeared near me as I exited the hospital. What's going on? I'm supposed to stay and take care of Cece, so why am I following Song Jin out? He ran desperately toward the hospital, yet no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get inside. In fact, as I walked away, the distance between him and the hospital only grew larger. It was then that he realized his range of movement was tied to my vicinity. Song Jin, turn back right now. I need to check on Qian. She's never been treated like this before, she needs me to take care of her. Qin Jiangyi anxiously floated to my side, his tone commanding. I simply pretended not to see or hear him and continued walking toward the parking lot. Song Jin, please go back, won't you? You won't arrange my funeral affairs, nor are you willing to spend the money. Don't you even want to look at me a little longer? Go back and see me. Let me spend more time with Cece, okay? Qin Jiangyi kept nagging incessantly in my ear. At first, he ordered me to go back. And when he realized I couldn't hear him, he started begging. His words were so disgusting that I almost cursed out loud on the spot. In the end, I had to put on headphones to suppress the urge to swear. When I got home, I went straight to the study to contact my lawyer. I thought Qin Jiangyi would follow me in, but the moment I stepped into the study, I realized his soul had been repelled, puzzled. I walked around the study and suddenly remembered a painting of the three pure ones hanging on the wall. It was left to me by my father years ago and was said to have been blessed. Apparently, Qin Jiangyi was blocked by this painting. This was just as well. I never wanted to be alone with Qin Jiangyi in the first place, especially in his soul form. He was unbearably noisy and gave me a headache. I contacted the lawyer and explained my situation and demands to her. The lawyer replied promptly, Ms. Song, rest assured, the assets listed in Mr. Qin's will are your marital joint property. He had no right to give them all away. If it's joint property, then it should be split equally between us, right? Does that mean half should go to Su Qian? I don't want to give her anything. That won't be necessary. Ms. Song, Mr. Qin's will clearly violates public order and good morals. As long as we provide evidence, the court won't uphold it. In fact, the will itself serves as the best evidence. However, according to regulations, Mr. Qin's estate should be divided equally between you and your son. If your son wishes to give his share to Ms. Su, you have no right to stop him. Hearing this, I felt relieved. That won't be an issue. My son has already renounced his inheritance rights. It was just notarized. The lawyer was delighted to hear this. Then there's no problem at all. Ms. Song, rest assured, Ms. Su won't get a single penny of that money. Moreover, I'll help you sue Ms. Su afterward to reclaim every cent Mr. Qin spent on her. I nodded and said, all right, please have your team put in some extra effort to investigate Qin Jiangyi's financial records. I'll provide the necessary authorization. Understood. Ms. Song, after finalizing the discussion with the lawyer, I felt somewhat better. To be honest, the shock I received today was not small. I was already sad because Qin Jiangyi was about to leave, but then I was hit hard by his white moonlight and his will. What hurt me the most, however, was my son. How could he be so foolish and morally misguided? Thinking of this, I suddenly made up my mind. Children and grandchildren have their own fortunes to seek. From now on, I don't want to care about his life, or even his survival. When I figured everything out and stepped out of the study, I saw Qin Jiangyi, who had been hovering outside the door, glaring at me indignantly. Song Jin, I want to see Su Qian. Take me to see Su Qian now. I turned around and went back into the study, rolled up the three pure ones painting, stuffed it into my robe, and carried it back to the bedroom. Now the world was quiet again. Meanwhile, Su Qian and Qin Wenchu ultimately didn't handle Qin Jiangyi's funeral arrangements, leaving him directly in the hospital morgue. I was having breakfast when the hospital called, and because I hadn't brought the three pure ones painting with me, Qin Jiangyi's incessant nagging was giving me a headache again. So when the hospital told me to come pick up Qin Jiangyi's body as soon as possible, I deliberately put the call on speaker and asked, what did you say? I didn't hear you clearly. Ms. Song, your husband's body has been in the morgue for 3 days. Could you please come and take him away and settle the fees? The staff member on the phone spoke in a professional tone. The morgue, Didn't Cece and the others handle the funeral arrangements? Qin Jiangyi was stunned by the staff's words for quite a while. Seeing this, I kindly asked the question for him. I remember my son and a Ms. Su were also at the hospital at the time. Why didn't they take care of it? This is how it was. Ms. Song, at the time, we asked those two individuals, but after learning about the costs, they said it would be better for you to handle it. Since you didn't come, we had to contact you. Hearing this, I almost laughed out loud. How much was the cost that they weren't even willing to cover? The staff member seemed to recall the situation and couldn't help but complain. We found it strange too. The cost wasn't even high. Less than 2 yuan total from the hospital to the cremation. They could have found their own cemetery, but after hearing about the cost, neither of them was willing to pay. That Ms. Sue even asked Mr. Chin, saying, would it be inappropriate for us to leave Brother Jiangyi here? She knew it wasn't right, but she wasn't willing to pay. But that Mr. Chin said, it's fine, if my mother finds out my father is in the hospital and hasn't been taken away for cremation, she'll definitely come and pay to take him away. Then the two of them left together, leaving only your phone number. Honestly, I'm quite grateful to this staff member. They mimicked the tone perfectly. Qin Jiangyi's face was filled with disbelief upon hearing this. Less than 2,000 yuan. How could they? It seems my husband isn't even good to his white moonlight, can't even cough up 2,000 yuan. I deliberately said loudly, bullshit, I've been the best to Cece, giving her tens of thousands every month, never skimping on gifts either. How could I possibly treat her poorly? As he spoke, he began to realize something was off. If he'd been giving Su Cece tens of thousands every month, how could she possibly lack a mere 1,000 yuan to help cremate his body? Ignoring Qin Jiangyi's undoubtedly complicated feelings at that moment, I cheerfully continued into the phone. All right then, I won't take the body. Isn't there that whole body donation program? Let's donate my husband's remains. It'll contribute to medical science, won't it? Hearing me say this, the staff member on the other end of the phone pieced together what was happening based on my earlier words. All right, Ms. Song, but you'll still need to come in person to sign the donation paperwork, the staff member replied, their tone now carrying a sense of relief. Okay, I'll come over after breakfast, I agreed readily. Only after I hung up did Qin Jiangyi realize what I had just said. Song Jin, you venomous woman, even if I wronged you. How could you treat me like this? How could you donate my body? Qin Jiangyi screamed at me hysterically, but as long as I pretended not to hear, he couldn't do anything about it. After all, he couldn't even touch me now. After breakfast, I packed up and drove to the hospital. At the hospital, I found the relevant staff and expressed my wish to donate my body. It seemed the staff I spoke to on the phone had already briefed them, so after I made my request, the process went very quickly. Soon, a staff member brought the donation consent form for me to sign. Qin Jiangyi, seeing me pick up the pen to sign, shouted in despair beside me, don't sign it, Song Jin, you're not allowed to sign. But isn't it perfectly normal that I couldn't hear the shouts of a mere soul? So I simply picked up the pen and began signing the consent form. Just as I finished signing, Qin Wenchu and Su Qian arrived as well. Auntie Su, I told you, as long as my mom knows my dad's body is still here, she'll definitely come, she'll pay the money, don't worry. Qin Wenchu's tone was full of smugness. Sister, why must you be like this? You refused to pay before, but now you still have to come and fork over the money yourself. Wouldn't it have been better to just pay last time and spare Wenchu the heartache? Su Qian also wore a triumphant smile. Sister, Wenchu and I went to look at burial plots these past few days. After all, he was your husband, so of course he deserves a nicer plot. We picked one that's only 250 yuan, you just need to go and pay. Looking at their smiling faces, I just scoffed. No need, Qin Jiangyi, he won't be needing a burial plot. My words left them stunned on the spot, unable to grasp my meaning. As for Qin Jiangyi floating in midair, this time he didn't rush anxiously to his Cece's side. Instead, he watched dejectedly as the staff took away the organ donation consent form. Mom, what do you mean? If we don't get a burial plot, where will Dad's ashes go? You can't just keep them at home. Qin Wenchu frowned. Yes, sister, no matter how reluctant you are to part with Brother Jiangyi, you can't keep his ashes at home. Besides, Brother Jiangyi has already transferred all his assets to me, so the house is mine too. I don't agree to keeping the ashes at home. Su Qian also expressed great dissatisfaction. Her dissatisfaction snapped Qin Jiangyi back to reality. He looked at Su Qian with confusion. Qian, do you dislike my ashes that much? Unfortunately, Su Qian couldn't see him or hear him, so she couldn't respond at all. Who said anything about ashes? I've already donated Qin Jiangyi's body to National Medical Research. Maybe someday he'll be a silent teacher in some school's anatomy classroom. I smirked and picked up my bag to leave. Donated? Qin Wenchu exclaimed in shock. Mom, how could you donate Dad's body? He should be laid to rest properly. What's all the noise? I covered my ears briefly. Why are you shouting? Wasn't it you two who refused to keep your father's body in the morgue? That would be occupying resources unnecessarily, which is wrong. Donating him was doing a good deed, understand? No, Mom, it's not that we didn't care, we wanted you to handle Dad's funeral arrangements. Think, as if you're the only one who can think. I told you that day, I'm not dealing with that scumbag's funeral arrangements, you're the ones who kept him here, I don't want to handle it, so of course the only option is to donate him. I spread my hands, indicating it wasn't my fault. Qin Wenchu looked utterly incredulous and full of regret, but he was left speechless by my words. So he instinctively turned to Su Qian, hoping she could help him out. But only then did he realize that upon hearing his father's body had been donated, and Su hadn't shown the slightest hint of regret or sorrow, Qin Wenchu looked at Su Qian in astonishment and asked incredulously, "Auntie, you just stood by and watched my father's body get donated?" Su Qian then realized she had appeared too composed, but she quickly adjusted her expression. "Wenchu, how could I bear to donate your father's body? But now that your mother has signed the papers despite objections, there's nothing I can do. After all, I'm not his legal wife," Su Qian said sorrowfully, wiping away non-existent tears from the corner of her eye. "And actually, Auntie thinks what your mom did was quite good." Qin Wenchu was even more shocked now. "Auntie, what are you talking about? Wenchu, listen to Auntie first. With your dad gone and your mom unwilling to handle his funeral arrangements, Auntie, although I was the love of your dad's life, it's not appropriate for me to take care of his funeral officially. Donating his body solves our problem and does a good deed for your dad. Anyway, this is also contributing to medical science, and it's accumulating merit for your dad. Your dad was a kind man his whole life. He would surely be willing to do this last good deed." After Suzy said this, Qin Jiangyi was completely devastated. If he weren't unable to touch physical objects, I suspect he would have grabbed Suzy by the shoulders and demanded why she would say such a thing. "Cece, that's my remains we're talking about. You know full well my greatest wish was to be laid to rest peacefully and buried together with you after your time comes. How could you possibly say now that I'm willing to donate my body? Cece, hurry and tell Wenchu to go retrieve my remains." Qin Jiangyi's voice was almost choked with sobs, but unfortunately Suzy couldn't hear any of his words. Instead, it was Suzy's words that convinced his son. Qin Wenchu didn't understand at first, but after hearing Suzy's explanation, he instantly calmed down. "So you mean if we donate my father's body, we won't need to arrange funeral affairs or buy a cemetery plot?" "That's right. Once the body is donated, naturally there's no need for a cemetery. You can just hold a memorial service for your father later." Speaking of which, Suzy turned her gaze towards me. "Sister, the memorial service should still be arranged by you. After all, you're Jiang Yi's wife." "Jiang Yi's wife says there's no need for a memorial service." I scoffed and turned to leave. "No service?" Suzy was stunned this time. "Why not? If you won't even collect Jiang Yi's body, how can you refuse to hold a memorial service?" "That's right, Mom, how can you be so heartless?" Qin Wenchu chimed in loudly. "What's there to mourn about a heartless, cheating scumbag?" I sneered coldly. My words left Qin Jiangyi, who was floating nearby, looking awkward. When he heard I refused to hold a memorial service for him, he had been somewhat angry, but after hearing what I said, he only felt ashamed and embarrassed. Su Shi, however, wouldn't let it go. "But if we don't hold a memorial service, how are we supposed to announce Brother Jiangyi's will to everyone? I need to inherit the estate." "So you want to hold a memorial service for Jiang Yi just to read the will and take my family's property, is that it?" Suzy was momentarily speechless, stammering for a long time before saying, "Isn't this also Brother Jiang Yi's last wish?" Only then did Jiang Yi show a disappointed expression towards Suzy. "Cece, after I died, did you ever take a proper look at my remains? Why is your mind so full of inheritance?" After saying this, he immediately made excuses for Suzy. Then again, "You've been hiding behind me, suffering all your life. Naturally, you'd only feel secure after getting the inheritance. Brother Jiang Yi doesn't blame you." I felt so disgusted by these two that I wanted to vomit. I didn't want to stay here any longer either. "There's no way I'll give you the family assets. If you have the guts, go sue me." After saying that, I ignored their attempts to stop me and left the hospital directly, heading straight to the company. Although I hadn't been to the company since Qin Jiangyi left, everything there was still under my control. Back then, Qin Jiangyi had nothing to his name. It was my father who personally nurtured him and entrusted him with the family company. After my father passed away, Qin Jiangyi gained almost complete control of the company, becoming its largest shareholder. But what he didn't know was that I was the company's mysterious second largest shareholder, who never made an appearance. Now that he's gone, his shares have fallen into my hands, making me the true largest shareholder of the company. As soon as I arrived at the company, I announced Qin Jiangyi's death and the news that I would be taking over personally. because I am the biological daughter of the former big boss and the wife of the current big boss. No one opposed this decision. Moreover, I had already communicated with the company's senior employees long ago. So taking full control of the company posed absolutely no problem. The second announcement I made was to cease providing any assistance to Qin Wenchu's company, including investments and procurement. This news indeed surprised the company employees, and one bold soul directly asked, "President Song, Mr. Qin's company has always relied entirely on our company's investments and orders to survive. If we stop the orders and investments, I'm afraid Mr. Qin's company might go bankrupt." Actually, Qin Wenchu's company was something he started right after graduating from university, when he was young and full of ambition, unwilling to work at his family's company and insisting on starting his own business. It was just a small-scale company, and both Qin Jiangyi and I, fearing he might suffer losses outside, specifically provided him with private assistance. For this, we even voluntarily gave up a portion of the company's dividends. Now that this son insists on siding with an outsider to provoke his own mother, naturally I don't need to care about whether his company lives or dies. The company's affairs were quickly resolved, though I haven't managed the business for years. After all, I am the daughter of that once most formidable entrepreneur. Thus, Jiang Yi's passing didn't bring any significant impact to the company. It was Su Qian and Qin Wenchu who couldn't sit still anymore. After discovering that I had stopped assisting Qin Wenchu's company, the two of them finally realized that I truly had no intention of handing over the family assets to Su Qian, so Qin Wenchu personally sought out a lawyer to help Su Qian file a lawsuit. Thus, the next time I saw the two of them was in court. Qin Wenchu seemed to realize that he had gone a bit too far, but he still stood in front of me and said somewhat awkwardly, "Mom, I didn't want it to come to this either, but you're hoarding the family assets and refusing to give them to Aunt Su. This is a desecration of Dad's last wishes. As his son, I have to fulfill his dying wish." Suddenly, I realized that now whenever I see this foolish son of mine, I can't help but roll my eyes. It's quite distressing to realize at over 60 years old that I've raised a foolish son. I didn't even acknowledge him and walked straight into the courtroom. In court, Suzy tearfully accused me of being unreasonable, claiming that despite Qin Jiangyi having left a will, I was withholding the property he had bequeathed to her. She accused me not only of seizing her property but also of refusing to allow Qin Jiangyi to hold a funeral and memorial service, calling me a petty and malicious woman. As a witness, her son also repeatedly said, "I confirm that my father's will is genuine." Before his death, he stated in front of us that he left the family property to Aunt Su, but my mother, out of jealousy because Aunt Su received all of my father's love, refused to hand over the family property to Aunt Su. In response to Qin Wenchu's words, I couldn't help but raise a question in court. "Qin Wenchu, you claim that I'm hoarding the family property and refusing to hand it over, but if I really did give it up, have you ever considered how I would survive without any assets? I'm already in my 60s and have lost the ability to work. Do you still expect me to hand over the family's money to your mistress?" Qin Wenchu frowned. "Mom, don't call Aunt Su such an ugly name as mistress. She's Dad's true love. Besides, even if you lose the family assets, you still have me. I'll take care of both you and Aunt Su." I didn't believe a single word of what Qin Wenchu said. How could someone who sides with his father's mistress against his own mother possibly support her in her old age? What's more, he'd soon be unable to afford his own household expenses. My lawyer quickly responded to Suzy and Qin Wenchu's statements. The lawyer stated, "Your Honor, the inheritance listed in Mr. Qin Jiangyi's will includes marital property jointly owned by Mr. Qin Jiangyi and Ms. Song Jin. Half of it rightfully belongs to Ms. Song Jin. Mr. Qin Jiangyi had no authority to bequeath it to others as inheritance." After reviewing the documents, the presiding judge nodded and said, "The statement is valid." This statement visibly agitated the two opposing parties, who seemed to have only just realized this issue. After briefly consulting with the lawyer, although unwilling, the two nodded to allow the lawyer to state that Suzy could relinquish the portion of the property that belonged to me, but the remaining half must be given to Suzy. "Your Honor, I would like to remind the court that Ms. Suzy was the third party during Mr. Qin Jiangyi's marriage to Ms. Song Jin. Does Mr. Qin Jiangyi's act of leaving his inheritance to a third party comply with public order and good morals?" After reviewing the evidence submitted by the lawyer, the presiding judge once again agreed with the lawyer's argument. When the verdict was announced, the presiding judge ruled to dismiss all claims of the plaintiff. Suzy and Qin Wenchu were both stunned. They couldn't understand why, despite the existence of a will, the money wasn't awarded to Susie. Qin Wenchu even caused a scene in court over this. What kind of lousy judge are you? Did my mother bribe you? My Aunt Susie has the will. My father wanted to give her the money, so what's the problem? Why won't you award it to Aunt Susie? Qin Wenchu thought that by making a fuss, the court might reverse its decision. Little did he know that what awaited him were two burly bailiffs. After being subdued by the bailiffs, Qin Wenchu finally realized he was in court, not at home. If he hadn't backed down in time, he would have been detained. Susie, who didn't receive any inheritance, was red-eyed with anger. She sobbed, "Song Jin, I've been with Qin Jiangyi for so many years, how dare you take my money away?" Seeing his beloved cry, Qin Jiangyi panicked. He frantically tried to wipe Susie's tears but grew even more flustered when he couldn't touch her. "Sisi, I'm sorry, I never expected Song Jin to be so ruthless, not leaving you a single penny. All these years you've suffered following me, but it's all right. The money I left for you should be enough for your retirement. I'll always wait for you. And after your time comes, we'll be reborn together." Sushi couldn't hear Qin Jiangyi's comforting words, feeling only immense injustice. Seeing that I ignored her, she nearly collapsed to the ground, shedding her previous refined demeanor. "Did that bastard Qin Jiangyi conspire with you to deceive me? He clearly promised everything would be mine after his death, yet now I can't get a single penny. If it weren't for his promises, I would have left him long ago. I was so beautiful in my youth. What kind of man couldn't I have found? If not for your family's wealth and his vow to leave everything to me, why would I have spent my whole life waiting for him without any recognition? You all lied to me, all of you." Sushi was practically wailing at the courthouse entrance. Her outburst shocked both Qin Wenchu and his son Qin Jiangyi, especially Qin Jiangyi. When he heard Sushi had only been with him for the money, his face instantly turned deathly pale. His expression one of utter disbelief. "Auntie Sue, didn't you stay by my dad's side because you truly loved him?" "Pa, what true love? When he was young and penniless, he still tried to pursue me. Later, when he had money, he arranged for me to be a nanny in your household. If he hadn't married into wealth, changed his status, and been willing to spend money on me, do you think I'd bother with him?" Su Qian rolled her eyes and said, "So you never loved my dad at all? You were only with him for his money, otherwise, do you think your father was a good man?" "Actually, I had long wanted to leave him back then. After all, what woman doesn't want to marry a decent man properly? But your father kept saying he wasn't in good health and might pass away before me, promising to leave all his inheritance to me, so I waited and waited, hoping for the day your father would go. Who knew this wait would drag on for decades? By the time I grew old, I couldn't find a good match anymore and had no choice but to stay with your father, waiting for him to die. Finally, when your father did pass away and the will was written, the money couldn't even go to me. Isn't this just bullying an honest person?" Watching Susie cry so pitifully, I actually found her both genuinely pathetic and somewhat ridiculous, waiting for me to die. Only then did Qin Jiangyi seem to wake from a dream, looking at Susie with grief and fury. "Susie, I've done so many outrageous things for you in this lifetime. For you, I seized my wife's company. For you, I betrayed my wife. I even let you raise my own son and made him close to you, all because I was afraid you'd be bullied after I died. And yet, all along, you've been wishing for my death, Susie. You wretched woman, I'm going to kill you." Qin Jiangyi lunged at Susie like a madman, but without a physical form. He couldn't even touch the hem of her clothes. As I watched the farce unfolding before me, I couldn't help but find it ridiculous. At this moment, Qin Jiangyi actually shifted all the blame for what he had done onto Su Qian, claiming everything was done for her sake. Men truly have no shame. Only then did Qin Wenchu realize that the aunt he had been helping all along was actually such a person. His eyes reddened. "Susie, you bitch, I stood up against my own mother for you, and now you're telling me all these years you've stayed by my dad's side just for his money. Was your kindness to me also just for his money?" Obviously, Susie, now that she couldn't get the money, didn't care anymore. "What makes you think you're such a good kid? You've been disobedient and annoying since childhood. If it weren't for your dad's money, why would I ever treat you so well? Not only did I treat you well, I spoiled you rotten. Whatever your mom forbade you to do, I encouraged you to do. I wanted to ruin you, so if I ever had a child of my own, you wouldn't stand a chance competing against them. Too bad your dad was useless all these years and he couldn't even give me a child. You've been ruined by me too. You're useless now." Susie's words delivered an overwhelming shock to Qin Jiangyi and his son. Qin Wenchu was the first to break down. "What do you mean I've been ruined by you and am useless now?" so all those times you deliberately said in front of me that my mother's high expectations meant she didn't love me, when you intentionally withdrew me from those tutoring classes, when you indulged me in playing around, you were purposely trying to ruin me. This can't be true, you're lying, how could I possibly be ruined? In what way am I ruined? Qin Wenchu was unwilling to accept this reality. Even I was shocked. It turns out Qin Wenchu performed poorly academically as a child, and all the tutoring classes and training programs I enrolled him in were withdrawn. Qin Jiangyi hovered beside Su Qian with a look of utter dejection, his eyes filled with grief. Back then, you said you couldn't bear to see my child suffer, that he was too young to be judged solely by grades, and asked me to entrust his education to you. I listened to you and withdrew all those classes for him as you suggested. Was all that just part of your scheme to ruin my son? Qin Jiangyi's questioning, Suzy couldn't hear. However, Suzy did respond to Qin Wenchu's questioning. Otherwise, look at yourself now. If it weren't for your father's company supporting yours, do you really think it could survive? A man in his 40s, easily fooled by a few words from me. Even betraying his own mother. Do you still think you're some kind of capable person? Suzy's words were too much of a provocation for Qin Wenchu, causing him to lose control and rush forward to strangle her, wishing he could kill her on the spot. However, we were in a courtroom, and soon the staff restrained Qin Wenchu. That old bitch deceived my father his whole life and now she's trying to ruin mine. I'll kill her. Qin Wenchu roared insanely. His irrational actions quickly subdued by the bailiffs. At Su Qian's strong insistence, he was immediately taken to the police station. As he was being led away, Qin Wenchu screamed desperately at me, "Mom, I was wrong, please save me." Mom, of course, I paid no attention. Instead, I looked at the hysterical Su Qian on the ground and said, "Su Qian, are you satisfied now?" Not satisfied. Suzy, her eyes red, screamed at me like a madwoman, "I'm not satisfied. All of Qin Jiangyi's money should be mine. If it weren't for you occupying my position as Mrs. Qin, his inheritance would rightfully be mine." Watching her self-righteous demeanor, I nodded with amusement. "You're right, if you were Mrs. Qin, that money would indeed be yours. It's just a pity you're not, so, every penny Qin Jiangyi spent on you over these decades belonged to me, the real Mrs. Qin, and was never something you deserved. So, Suzy, just wait. I will sue you in my capacity as Mrs. Qin to reclaim our marital assets." Hearing this, Suzy panicked. "Reclaim? How could that be? Qin Jiangyi gave it to me willingly. Do you need me to educate you on the law? Marital assets spent on a mistress are invalid. I can demand their return. You'd better go home and start saving up. I've already had someone investigate all of Qin Jiangyi's transfer records while he was alive. Not a single cent will be missing. No, this can't be. Money given to me can't possibly be taken back." Sushi refused to believe it, shouting at me hysterically. But what good would that do? By the time she received the court summons, she had consulted every lawyer she could find, only to be told that every penny she spent must be returned. She completely broke down, crying and screaming over the phone, begging me to let her go. "Song Jin, I was really wrong. Now that I'm old and have no income, I simply don't have the money to pay you back. Please. Just let me go." Over the phone, Su Qian wept heart-wrenching sobs. But how did she treat me when they were hurting me? I didn't shed a single tear back then. If you're broke, just be a deadbeat then. The house you're living in, the car you're driving, the bags you're using, the clothes you're wearing, they'll all be auctioned off. You can always scavenge trash to save up money to pay me back, though given your age and compared to the money Qin Jiangyi gave you, you'd probably be scavenging until you die. After saying that, I hung up the phone directly and urged the lawyer to speed up the process to reclaim all the money Sushi had as soon as possible. After all, Song Jin, am no saintly white lotus. If you dare to scheme against me, you must pay the price. This time, after hearing my decision, Qin Jiangyi didn't yell at me again, forbidding me from bullying his precious she. Instead, he was clapping and cheering on the side. "Yes. That's my wife for you. That's exactly how you should deal with that bitch Suzy. Thank you, honey, for avenging me." Hearing this made me sick to my stomach. Just as I was getting up to leave, Qin Wenchu was released from detention. He looked utterly haggard and immediately knelt down upon seeing me. "Mom, I was wrong. I've come to apologize. Please calm down. You cut off support for my company, and now it's gone bankrupt. That old bitch Suzy has swindled almost all my money. When my wife found out, she decided to divorce me and take our daughter with her. Mom, please help me." Qin Wenchu's eyes welled up with tears, wearing an expression of obedient remorse and profound sorrow. such a pitiful sight would indeed soften any mother's heart. Unfortunately for him, his mother happens to be me. The thought of what my own son did to me when I was on the verge of losing my husband makes it impossible for me to forgive him. It seems my daughter-in-law is quite clear-sighted, luckier than I was. All right, go home and tell your wife. After the divorce, I'll take care of her and my granddaughter. As for you, Qin Wenchu, from the moment you stood by Su Qian's side, you ceased to be my son. I stood up and walked straight past him. He tried to grab my leg to block my way. But the bodyguards I had arranged in advance stopped him. Throw him out and don't let him near my house again. After giving the order to the bodyguards, I went straight to the garage and drove off. In the car, Qin Jiangyi kept chattering non-stop. Song Jin, I know you're very angry about this matter, but when Chu is after all your own son, you can't just abandon him. Everything is my fault. If you want to blame someone, blame me, even if when Chu made mistakes. You should forgive him for the sake of him being your own flesh and blood. Just as I was about to go crazy from his nagging, we finally arrived at our destination. Qin Jiangyi hadn't even noticed that I'd already parked the car, still muttering, honey, if we could start over in the next life, I would treat you right, I would definitely make you happy. Please forgive Wen Chu, there's no need to wait for the next life. I can be happy in this one. Startled by my response, Qin Jiangyi looked at me in shock. Honey, you can hear me? I nodded. I can see you too. Qin Jiangyi's expression turned emotional. Honey, it seems we're truly meant for each other. Don't worry, from now on, I'll stay by your side and accompany you through all your days. Hearing this, I scoffed. If you die, our marriage will be dissolved, so stop calling me wife, and for the sake of my happiness in the remaining years of my life, you'd better stay away from me and spare me the disgust. As I spoke, I got out of the car. Qin Jiangyi looked bewildered. Song Jin, are you still angry? I know cheating was my fault, but didn't you manage to protect our family assets? Why are you still upset? He anxiously chased after me, completely unaware that he had followed me into a temple. The moment Qin Jiangyi's soul entered the temple, it was immobilized by a talisman. A Taoist priest in robes stepped forward and said, Madam Song, your husband's spirit has been subdued, it will no longer appear by your side. I nodded and said, then I'll trouble you, Taoist priest, to properly refine this evil spirit in the future. Make sure it doesn't escape, and don't let it live too comfortably either. Rest assured, the evil spirits that enter our Zhenling temples suffer worse than the 18 levels of hell. Now I can finally rest assured. After paying the Taoist priest the appropriate incense offering, I turned and walked away without hesitation, completely ignoring Qin Jiangyi's pleading gaze. He thought betraying me would be fine as long as he died. Song Jin, have always repaid every slight, even in death. I will make your soul pay the price. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.